0, 1.
Hi everyone, we're walking. I have been at where? Festival of Education. I have videoed Sir Lenny Henry. He did a keynote, so I have that for you to see and some highlights of the venue. The venue is really lovely, and today was really a good day. I would recommend. So yes, check out the video guys. Talk to you later. Bye for now. Guys, welcome again to the Festival of Education 2025. It is set this year against the stunning backdrop of Wellington College in the heart of Berkshire. And I was so honored to be among the educators, the innovators, and the thinkers from across the country who came here to really celebrate the power of learning. And Wellington College was the perfect host. Guys, you can see the expansive grounds. It is really huge. It had historic architecture as well. And it gave us the space to really explore and to really think about learning and how to really engage and get the maximum inspiration. So I explored the venue. I was here very early and I had the chance to really go around, and I couldn't help but be amazed by the sheer scale and beauty of the venue. I ended up going to the lake. As you can see, I took a quiet walk down to the lake. This is one of my favorite moments, and you're going to see the ducks in a bit. They drifted lazily up to me, and guess what they wanted? Yes, they expected some food, and I had none. To demand food. That's not very nice. They thought we have nothing for you. It's so So this was just a nice pause to come by the water's edge and see and have this experience. But of course, the heart of the festival was the people. We had passionate talks, we had panels, we had conversations across the grass. I networked as well. This was a space where ideas definitely came to life. We reflected. It offered something for everyone, I believe. And I have written things down and really thought about what I am going to intentionally use from this. You know, I'm still, these are still videos of the grounds. I ended up going from the lake into a wooded area. It reminded me of a forest, and I was saying the students here had so much in terms of resources. They could do a camping. They didn't have to go anywhere else to do a camp out. They had the space for that. So now I am walking up to, I've left the grounds and I'm going up to where the panels will take place, the debates, the talks, and you're going to see that in a minute. And of course, later on after this bit, you will see what you will get to just sit down for about 40 minutes or so and listen to Sir Lenny Henry, and it was well worth it. That's what the day culminated in a get to know talk, and we know Sir Lenny Henry is very humorous. It was hilarious at points. And I apologize that at points I was holding the camera because I didn't have a stand. So I was holding the camera and I had to stop myself from laughing out. You can see and you will see the camera shaking at times, but please forgive me for that.
Lenny, what's your advice for me to get a round of applause like that when I next arrive on the stage?
Wear a suit.
It's a festival.
Oh yeah? Lovely.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
So we want to give an opportunity to the audience here to ask Lenny some questions. So towards the end of this session, there will be an opportunity for Q&A. We're also going to do a group selfie towards the end, so please get ready. And that would be very, very exciting.
Are they all coming on stage?
No. Well, we'll see what help on stage we allow.
Okay.
But Lenny, kicking off, over the years you've spoken in great detail about your school years back in Dudley. So I want to ask you, what role did education play for you and who you are today?
It was an interesting place. Well, I went to school in Dudley. I went to Bluecoat Secondary Modern, and we were between Wolverhampton, where Enoch Powell made the Rivers of Blood speech, and we were between and Smethwick, which is where Peter Griffin almost got in under the motto, if you want an N word for a neighbour, about Labour, and Dudley's in the middle. So I grew up in there was quite a lot of racism going on at my school. It was really, really, really bad. It'd be like, BAM! Nicknames and horrible names, BAM! Hated that French mistress. And, I had a kid who picked on me all the time. And just to give you an idea of what Bluecoat Secondary Modern was like, most schools have a badge, and an inspirational motto, but Dudley Grammar had a double-headed eagle and the words, fortune favours the brave, and Bluecoat had a lemming with the words, which way's the cliff? I had a fight nearly every day. I was bullied a lot at my school, and I think it's a big thing, because I was black and I was working class, and I didn't really have any friends at school. A lot of my friends are park friends, and there was this one kid who used to pick on me all the time. I'm pretty sure this is where my sense of humour came from, because a lamp went on over my head that day, and this kid would punch me and kick me, and we'd be rolling around in the playground, punching, and all these kids stand around and go, fight, fight, fight! And then there was this moment when it went ping, and I said, you must really fancy me because you're always trying to get me to roll around on the floor with you. And everybody stopped saying fight, fight, fight and looking at me and started to laugh. And I said, why don't we buy a ring and make it official? And this guy was like, are we going to fight or what? And I said, do you want to be my mum and dad? Anyway, he sort of stopped fighting and he walked away. And he never ever bullied me again. But he's here right now, ladies and gentlemen. He did bully me again, but it started to wane off because I started to have jokes. And I had this thing of humour being my sword and my shield. Okay. And I think if kids can learn that instead of doing this, you can just have jokes or have a funny thing to say. Victoria Wood used to say, if whatever they say, just say something back. And I stand by that.
And you've stood by that throughout your adult life. Have you experienced racism throughout your adult life as well? And have you continued to use comedy as your?
Oh yeah. I mean, if you watch any of the shows that I've done, humour is a massive, massive thing. I kind of tend to be doing anything about race back, because what's the point in arguing about race? You might as well make a joke about it. It's so stupid. And it's mostly ignorance, particularly on the bully pulpit, particularly on X or Twitter or whatever it's called. There was a moment when Nigel Farage said, and I don't know what it was, I don't know what I'd said, but he said, if Lenny Henry wants to live in a black country, he should go and live in one. And of course, everybody on Twitter wrote back and said, Lenny's from the black country. My mum also insisted that we do something about race in Dublin. And what she did was, she lined us all up in the hallway. She's a brilliant woman, my mum. She lined us all up in the hallway, that me, Seymour, Sharon, Paul, Kay, and Hilton. I know the guy who does adverts for the Premier Inn has a brother called Hilton. You couldn't make it up, really. And she said, you must integrate. You have to integrate with the Dudley people then. You must eat their food. Eat their food, try not to box them down. Eat their Scotch egg and chips. Don't ask for bigger portions. It's not their fault they don't know how to serve people properly. She made us integrate. So I made park friends. School friends are people you make friends with at school because you've got to, because you sit next to them. But park friends, they're so random.
Your choice.
That you can make a choice about who they are. And I had friends called Greg, Mac and Tom, and they went to Dudley Grammar. And they had a much wider frame of reference than me. You know, they were very, very cool. Their taste influenced mine. They had different tastes in music. They had different tastes in books. And you know, we all drank underage. And so the integration project actually worked. I got to meet lots of people that I wouldn't normally have spoken to, because I knew lots of black people. A lot of them were in my family, so I didn't need to integrate with them, because they were there. I had to go out into the street and meet white people and say, hello, you all right? And then when I got home, you never guess what I meet today. So I had this weird split thing going on. But my childhood was pretty much enjoyable, apart from the bullying. But I got through it because of my park friends.
Okay. And from a school perspective, who was that teacher that sort of changed the trajectory of Lenny?
Mr. Brooks.
Okay.
Every time I listen to Desert Island Discs, or I read those things in the paper, you know, all of the celebrities and scientists and pundits and fashion designers and engineers, and they all say there was this one teacher. I love that. There was this one teacher. And teachers need to know that. If you're that one teacher that said to that kid, oh, you're funny, or you can dance, or wow, you run really fast, or Christ, you're good at maths. You probably wouldn't say Christ. But, fucking hell, you're great. but if you're that one teacher that can do that for that kid, you literally change their life. And Mr. Brooks changed my life. He was this amazing, a bit like Robin Williams in Good Morning Vietnam or something. He was funny in the classroom. He would draw diagrams that were weird. I remember he did this very complicated diagram of a sewage system that made us laugh, because there was a turd at the end of it, beautifully drawn and coloured in with carrots sticking out of it. It was always so funny, and I think it was in the RAF, and he once disarmed a kid who had a knife, and we all gave him a round of applause. It was amazing. Anyway, he told me I was talented when no one else was saying a damn thing. And he let us use there was a Grundig reel-to-reel tape recorder. Do you remember them? A reel-to-reel tape recorder in the back of the science lab. And he said to me and Graham Willis, you can use that if you want to. You know, you guys are funny, you should use that reel-to-reel, and if you want to do stuff, I'll listen to it. So we went in the back and we did lots of stupid stuff, you know, jokes and stuff. And Graham had this thing about yawning. He thought if you went like this, and you recorded it, and what if we go, it certainly worked for me. I was bored shitless by it. But I did all his characters on it, and Mr. Brooks said, you know, I love the Tommy Cooper, I love the Max Martin, here's a funny story. I like all the characters you're doing, that's really good. You should do something about that. And he was my one teacher. And I had another teacher, I won't say his name, but I saw him get a review in the paper, and he got a very good review. He was playing Dracula in a play in an amateur dramatic society. And this is how not to do this. And I read the review in the Express and Star, and I went up to him and I said, that's a really good review. What did I know about reviews? That's a really good review you got in the paper. I said, I like the idea of amateur dramatics. Could I come down to the theatre and maybe help out, make up some tea, and you know, maybe I could, you know, do something in one of your plays? He said, I don't think it's for you. That's the opposite of what you do. I was asking him to sweep up, make cups of tea. That's not for me. And I don't know why he said that, but I've never forgotten it. I'm 67, never forgotten that shit. And my mum always encouraged my schoolwork. My mum always encouraged everything I did. She didn't know she was doing it, but you know, she would laugh at things. I'd watch her. I'd be fascinated by her. She wouldn't help me with schoolwork though. I'll ask for help with maths. And she said, what, I have to work from 8 in the morning to 5:30 in the evening, come back here, cook, clean, sweep up the house as well, and teach you as well? What the hell are you doing in that school? But she did everything else. And just by the way she watched television, I learned a huge amount. If my mum did this, that shit was funny. So I learned that from my mum. And you got to, you take it from where you can get it. And if there's a teacher who says, you can run fast, be funny, you're smart. I talked to somebody today who said, I don't know which school he went to, but the badly behaved or ostracised children, this one teacher said, oh, well, you guys are getting bullied, why don't you write some sketches about stuff? That's a bit random, isn't it? So these kids just started to make up sketches like they've seen on the telly and perform on a stage at school in the hall. And when they got laughs, they were encouraged to form a double act and go out and do shit, Teachers can do anything, they're so powerful, and you've got to know that, you are so powerful.
And Mr. Brooks was obviously very powerful in your life. I wonder, did you get an opportunity to thank Mr. Brooks later in life? And if you didn't, what would you say to Mr. Brooks if he was with us today?
God, Mr. Brooks was amazing. He came on the One Show. I was on the One Show doing something, and they said, we've got a surprise.
Oh, amazing.
And he's old now, he's like 90 or something, and he's like, hello, Lenny. You don't remember me, do ya? That's Mr. Brooks. It was fantastic. He came on the One Show and I thanked him. And I just said, thank you so much for encouraging me. He's the one who encourages. It's very weird if you're working class, because there's often things that are sort of not meant for you, like Shakespeare. I went to school where Shakespeare was kind of not really taught. One teacher did make us do Shakespeare. Mr. Brooks encouraged us to do it. And then me and Ronnie Barton doing Romeo and Juliet, hilarious. I'm pretty sure that's who, Romeo, we're four on now, Romeo. Pretty sure that's where we got that from. And actually that inspired the Frank Bruno thing on Comic Relief. I don't know if you remember that. Juliet, I haven't seen thee since the wedding, Juliet. I mean, Harry. So all of these things are things to be remembered and cherished and revered because they make you who you are, and you come out the other end. You never think you're going to come out the other end, but you do.
Yeah.
And I think that any teacher who spies if somebody's being beaten at home or abused, bullied in the playground, pushed around, any teacher who spots that and does something about it is cool in my book.
And you left school, you had your 20s, and you returned to education in your 30s to go to the Open University as an adult learner. What motivated you to return to education?
I'm sorry to correct you. It's okay because he's not wearing a suit, so it's cool. I did my O levels first.
Okay.
Because I did CSEs. Do you remember them? Do you remember CSEs? Which is the education equivalent of chlamydia.
How many of those did you get?
For people who definitely couldn't spell.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot. For people who definitely couldn't spell the word chlamydia. Anyway, I got 7 CSEs, which is about as much use as a chocolate fireguard. But I decided I was working with Cannon Ball in Blackpool. Thank you. Once again, I thank you. Rock on, Tommy. Rock on, Tommy. You little liar. You little liar. All together, you little... Honestly, Gandhi would have shot himself. So I've got 22 weeks of this. And about 3 weeks in, I thought, I'm going to take my O-levels. So I rang Preston College and I said, have you got anybody there who can take me through my O-levels? And he said, we've got just the person, David, brilliant man. Had the pipe and the patches on his elbows and everything. And he showed up my house. And he taught me Shakespeare, Twelfth Night, and I had to do poetry and Blake, and I had to do Colour Purple. And one other thing, my first task was to get to grips with William Wordsworth's The Prelude. Have you read that? Anybody read that? Yeah. It's a long, long-ass poem about nature. 15 pages on grass. Come on, William, either mow it or roll it up and smoke it, but not 15 pages. Especially if it doesn't bloody rhyme. But I didn't, so 12 weeks took me to do my O-levels. I wish I'd told me that when I was at school, I would have done it then. But 12 weeks, did the whole thing, read all these books, did all these essays, and then in October of that year, I went to Wellington College to do my exam. And they stuck me in at the back of the room with all these other kids, with all these young kids, and I was at the back. And I'm pretty sure quite a lot of people failed their exam that day because they kept looking back and going, why is the blood from Tiswell sitting in the back of the room? They were very distracted. Go on, let's say, okay.
If you could travel back to 15-year-old Lenny in the classroom, what would you say?
If I could go back in time and talk to myself at 15, I'd say, Yvonne Farmer is going to break your heart. But don't worry, because she's got 7 kids now and her husband's in jail. I'd say, ask Mr. Brooks for advice, he's great. I'd say, when you win New Faces, the school bully will meet you in town afterwards and put his arm around you and go, anybody who picks on Lenny Henry will have to answer to me. God, I wish I'd known that then. I'd have gone on telly earlier. So that actually happened. This guy who would literally kick the shit out of me at school. After New Faces, about a month after New Faces, and I was suddenly, because that first show that I did was watched by 16 million people. So I was hood famous, and I was nationally famous. And the school bully came up to me and put his arm around me and said, see this bloke here, Lenny Henry? Anybody picks on him, they're going to sort it out with me. And I was shaking, thinking he was going to hurt me. But he didn't, he meant it. And it just meant that I'd done something that was unquantifiable. He just knew that this was something that he wanted to be part of. He was hoping that some of it would rub off on me, which is hilarious because he was a white guy. And he's the guy who used to make the joke of, oh, does it come off? And now he was wanting some of it to come off on him. And I really wished it had happened. There's a guy who needed to be black for a day. Anyway, I think we deal with bullying how we deal with it.
Yeah.
And we deal with fame the way we did it. I mean, I literally was working in a factory, and when I won New Faces, I left skid marks outside the factory. I couldn't wait to be in show business. I was there.
Turning to the arts and creativity and education, what do the arts mean to you? And what did drama and performance offer that traditional academic subjects at school?
We didn't have drama at our school. We didn't have drama. This is the 70s, man. No drama at our
90s
school.
child.
We had running around in the hall and pretending to be the Avengers. Mr. Kipper smoking a fag outside. And, we didn't have a theatre like this. You could rent this out to the Circus LA, couldn't you? Our drama was watching Mr. Rich, our biology teacher, snogging one of the other teachers behind the bike chairs. We had a school disco once when we were 15, and one of the teachers, he shall remain nameless, they were playing Hey There Lonely Girl, and one of the teachers went up and asked this 14-year-old girl to dance, to do a slut dance. And we were like, of course she's going to dance with him, he's got a house and a mortgage. We didn't think anything was wrong with that. We were 14, what do we know? And my drama class was the telly, because we didn't have it at school. And Man from U.N.C.L.E., James Bond, Viva Maria. My mum took me to see Viva Maria at the pictures and James Bond. And whenever there was any nudity, this big hand would just come over my face. And I learned a lot from my mum. She loved TV. And I did used to think, wouldn't it be great to do that? And as I got a bit older, like 13, 14, I started to write down jokes and try them out to my classmates, but mainly on my park friends. And I started to remember jokes off by heart. I was in a joke the other day. I don't know why I'm doing this for you. I was in a joke the other day. You should take all the clothes, stand by the window and jump up and down. I said, why? He said, I hate my neighbours. And I started to remember these jokes. And it was an amazing thing, and it did get me through, it did improve my standing at school. And there was this one teacher who said Lenny should be in the school concert this year. And so in the hall we had a school concert. And not only was I playing the drums, because I could read, somehow I could read notation. And I could do that, I could read the dots of that. So I was in Jonah Jazz, remember these things? Jonah Jazz. I was in that, playing the drums. I got to be the compere of the school concert, and I got to do my jokes. A salesman knocks on the door. The little boy answers the door. He's wearing a negligee. He's got a bottle of wine in the one hand and a cigar in the other. The salesman said, is your mum and dad at home? He said, what do you think? these impressions, and it went down a storm. And the teacher who said, "It's not for you," did careers. And after I'd passed the audition for New Faces, I went in and he said, "Well, what do you think you're going to do?" And I said, "Oh, probably be an electrician, you know, that's what's on offer." He said, "Don't be stupid, you're going to be in show business. I saw you at the school concert, you were very good. You need to be in show business." So he did do something right
Amazing.
in the end.
And Lenny, you've spoken a
I was
lot.
just going to call him a name then, but I'm not going to.
Feel free.
Asshole.
Lenny, you've spoken a lot about your love of reading, and of course you're an accomplished author. What ignited your love and passion for reading?
I have to say my Auntie Pearl.
Okay.
Auntie Pearl is, my mum came over to England from Jamaica because my Uncle Clifton wrote her a letter and said, "Dear Whitney, you must come to England. You can earn 30 shillings a week. That's good money. Bring Pearl, but also, please bring me a wife." And she did, so Mum came over here with Auntie Pearl and Madge for Uncle Clifton. And once they settled in, they kind of became my mentors, all three of those women. And Auntie Pearl was brilliant with me. Mum was busy at work. She didn't really have much time for my education, although she encouraged me a lot to work hard and would beat me if I didn't. So, but Auntie Pearl is the one, when I was about 8 or 9, who took me to Dudley Library and got me a library card and said, "Go for it." And I read Dickens. Librarians are great, aren't they? And Dickens and The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, and the Famous Five. Always wanted to be in the Famous Five. Never any black people in there. None of these books, Jennings, Billy Bunter, but in the Famous Five, you know, Peter, Mary, Simon. There needed to be a Raheem or Dexter. I would have loved that. I would have loved there to have been a black hobbit. Oh my God, and I was one. I got to be a black Irish hobbit. People went nuts. Rings a bell. I mean, you believe in dragons and talking trees, but you can't handle a black dude with a lantern in the centre direction. People, man. But I got my love of reading came from that. And then I took that into school, and there was this one teacher who encouraged me to read everything in the school library, so I did that. And it was extraordinary. And I read everything. And I was reading I've got a book called The Boy with Wings, and there's a play at Polka Theatre in Wimbledon, and it's going to Birmingham Rep soon. They've done an adaptation of it. But this one kid, I'd read it on the news for these kids, and this kid with dreadlocks came out, and he said, yeah, good reading. I said, thank you. He said, is it going to be a movie? I said, no. He said, I'm going to wait for it to be a movie. I said, no, buy the book, kid. Read the book. But yeah, so books to me are power. Books are a dream in your hand, as a friend of mine used to say. Books are peace. Books are comfort. Books are literacy. Books are fun. You can find jokes in books. You can find brilliant moments in books. You can cry your eyes out at the book. I think when the horse dies in the Never-Ending Story, that wrecked me. Sam Ganges, Jesus, you know, get a life, Sam.
Lenny, we've had.
But I love books. Do you do that thing when you read the book where you get near the end and you start going to the chapter before, so the book gets longer? I've read some books for 3 years because I don't want to finish. I love books.
Lenny, we've had policy officials here at the Festival of Education updating us what's happening, what their plans are for education. Fantastic. What would you... I think you've sort of answered my question already, but what would you say to policymakers who undervalue creative subjects?
Well, they're idiots, right? If you want to teach kids about creativity, good luck finding the new policymakers. Good luck finding people who can think their way out of a problem. Good luck finding people who can brainstorm and think out of the box. These are the extraordinary thinkers of the future. Dramatists, painters, writers, creators. We need these people. It's not just STEM. I know they think maths and that is important. Maths and the sciences. You need art. Art and maths meet in the middle. And the sooner they realise that, the better. It'll change the world. The minute they realise that there's a beauty in art and mathematics, and they both become each other up here. And we need both. You've got to have art, and you've got to have maths. You need both of them. I'm not numerical. I'm learning a pen at the moment that has lots of numbers in it. You know how I'm learning it? I'm using symbols. I'm attaching symbols, and I'm using visualization so that I can remember the numbers. And I wish somebody had taught me that at school, because it would have meant I could read contracts and see how much.
Well, no, I'm very grateful you can't.
But you know, creativity is the key to almost everything. You know, screenwriters say a story is somebody who gets up a tree and you throw rocks at them and they have to come up with a way of coming down. And that, if you solve that problem, you've written a story. Well, you know, it's weird. Stories are like a journey. And it's the destination, it's the journey that's important, not the destination. Stories are like a relationship, beginning, middle, and end. You know, there's all these allegories and similes and metaphors that are about art, not necessarily about maths or storytelling. You can use art to explain maths. And I'm not sure you can use maths to explain art, though. But they somehow work together. And I think that teach our kids how to learn like that, then you'll see something.
And if you were Education Secretary for a day, what would you do to support the arts and creativity in education?
First, I'd ask Keir Starmer why he lied on his CV. That guy didn't say anything about being a Tory, did he? What the hell? We've got to invest in the arts in this country. We need to invest in the arts. Art contributes 124 billion to the GDP. Don't they want that in their economy? Why isn't that seen as an important thing? Creativity can be in all fields of endeavour. And we need to try and get our leaders to understand that STEM is great, but STEAM is the bollocks.
Lots of swearing for education.
Sorry. I've walked past staff rooms. I know what you guys get up to.
Lenny, I want to move on quickly to discuss diversity in education and the media. And what do you think schools can do better in terms of helping students feel seen and valued?
Just get them all in a hall and see and value them. I don't know. I think have empathy. I think about there was this one teacher thing, be that one teacher who goes like that and makes the light bulb come on over the kid's head. Get the smart ones, the clowns, the ones that are being bullied, and make them do stuff extraordinary. You'll know they are. They're the ones with the smart. They're the ones that cheek you on the way into school. They're the ones that say stuff all the time. Get them to do stuff for the rest of the school. I was made to do Elvis in front of the school, so it was obviously a problem. Why is that kid still singing Jet That's Rock in the middle of physics? You need to tell them that thing you do, that's something that is. You should lean into that. Rather than put boundaries around kids, you need to unlock them so that they can fly. And I'm very lucky because I was allowed to fly. And I had friends who encouraged me to fly. And we need teachers to do the encouraging too. It's hard, I know it's hard. I know school's hard. I know it's hard to teach. I know people don't get paid enough. I know people are still doing homework from 4 years ago. But it pays off. It pays off when you see teachers in the street and you still call them sir and miss. I was in Brighton and Hove doing a show, and I saw Mr. Brooks and Mr. Wright in the street, and I went, Mr. Brooks, Mr. Wright, and they just laughed at me. You know, you can call us by now. I don't know your names. You're Mr. Brooks, you're Mr. Wright. And they kept seeing the show. They had notes, obviously. Yes, is that the proper syntax for that particular interview? Shut up, sir, I'm rich now. I didn't say that.
Lenny, you founded the Sir Lenny Henry Centre for Media Diversity. Can you share with us a bit of why you set it up and its work?
I met a guy called Marcus Ryder, who is now the chairman of RADA, and also he's the chairman of the Film and Television Charity. He's a brilliant bloke. And he and I did a speech about diversity for Channel 4 and for the Royal Television Society called The Road to Diversity is Closed, please use alternate routes. And he and I wrote this speech together. I really like Marcus. He's a documentary maker. He used to be head of political affairs at the BBC. He used to produce Panorama. And between us, we realised we were stronger together than we were apart. And so we started to work together on these speeches. I gave a big speech at BAFTA, just about people leaving the industry because they're female and because they're black and because they're gay or in a wheelchair, and there just aren't the opportunities for people. And people go to America to try and find something to do there, and having much more success. Look at Idris Elba, look at Damson Idris, look at Naomi Ackie. They're going to America because there's just no work here for them. And I made a big speech about it after. It did shake things up. And Ed Balls, which is a great name, came to see me at the National Theatre when I was doing Comedy of Errors. And he came backstage and he noted that there weren't very many people of colour or women working backstage at the National. And he said something about it. And he said, you know, you could say something about this. So Marcus and I wrote this speech. And we were allowed to give it at BAFTA, and then we were allowed to give it at Channel 4, and then we did it at the BBC, and then they let us go to Millbank, and we gave it to a select committee, and it became a thing. And we had some ideas, and what I didn't realise is we were shaping some kind of policy about diversity. And the final thing was when we did it for the BBC got on board with it, and they made diversity part of the BBC's charter. Wasn't on before. So our activity and our activism made something happen and changed the conversation about diversity. So the BBC thing was a big win. So I got us to be the Chancellor of Birmingham City University. Things you never thought you'd hear yourself say. And one of the things I wanted to do was have a research facility, because when we went next to Downing Street with a group of us, me, Marcus, Angela Ferreira, Adiana Patan, and a few other people who were black and brown and people with disabilities in the media, we hadn't quite done our homework. What they want you to do when you go to government is have your ducks in a row and for you to have modelled it or figured out something to do with your policy, you know? So if you've got an idea for something, and our big idea was, what they should do is do diversity benefits for film companies who come to Britain. So if you come to Britain and you want to make the new Tom Cruise film, and you hire a diverse group of people, male, female, gay, straight, you know, people in wheelchairs, if you hire a diverse group of staff, you'll get a discount. You know, we'll knock money off. And it could bring in more work to the country. So we've written this thing out. And I went to, which genius was it? Was it John Whittingdale? Anyway, we met John Whittingdale.
The Culture Secretary.
Yeah, Culture Secretary. And we pitched it to him. And it went down really, really well. But on the way out, the Treasury guy followed us out. And he said, have you done any homework on this? And I said, well, no, we thought you'd give us some money to do that. He said, oh, no, you need to model this. We need to see spreadsheets, and we need a PowerPoint thing, and we need to know projections, and, you know, blah, 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 blah. We hadn't done that. And I said, and I said, I never want to go to government again with anything unless we've got our ducks in a row. And then when I got the job at BCU as the Chancellor, I said, is there any possibility that we could get a research person to do modelling and figure out things for us to do with diversity and inclusion? And they said, yeah, we'll do that for you. And the then Vice-Chancellor gave us a budget and gave me 2 PhD people, and me and Marcus just started this thing. We've got a magazine called Representology, right now. And it's peer-reviewed articles about diversity in the media. And we are also consultants for anything in the media to do with DEI. We support marginalised voices wanting to be heard. It's a safe space for people to share their fears about racism, prejudice and sexism. And it relates to this because we really need diversity in the teaching catchment area, and we also need diversity in the curriculum.
Yeah.
And if one of the things I could die having done is influence the school curriculum in terms of kids learning about who they are and learning about their history and learning how to learn and all that kind of stuff, I think I would have done a good job. So the research centre is about all of those things. And we've influenced things like they don't say BAME anymore, or BAME, or they're not supposed to, because we were consulted by the BBC because they've had a lot of stick from people who are black and brown saying, I hate the term BAME. For me, I always wanted somebody to go, babe, I want to live forever. And we always thought it was stupid. We always thought it was lumping us into a thing. It was lazy. I liked it when we were just black folks, or brown folks, or women, or my gay people in the house. I liked that. I didn't like this all lumping everybody into one thing. So we advised them, we did some work, peer reviewed, and it became very clear that BAME had to go. So that's gone, and that's because of us. And we've done all sorts of stuff for Financial Times, The Guardian, Channel 4. It's really grown up stuff. And I never ever dreamed they'd be asking me to do. Thankfully, it's not me having to do it. Might be able to do it for 7 years, so you know, don't ask me to do any research. 7 years later. But it's joyous when something works.
Look, it's fair to say you've found your voice and you've had a huge social impact using your voice. How important is it for young people today to find their voice, particularly those from marginalised backgrounds?
I don't think young people have a problem with their voice. Do you? You see Glastonbury? People are saying things, LGBTQ, exclamation mark, climate change, Israel, Palestine, they're passionate about everything. They all need to lie down, it feels like to me. They're getting a lot of this. I mean, this is why social media needs more moderation and more regulation, because you know there's some misguided things. There's where people get their information from. You know, which is why school's so important. Teaching kids about slavery, teaching kids about the American president, teaching things about why the Lascelles riot happened, poll tax riot, George Floyd. You know, if schools can help kids learn about that stuff and not be frightened about what level they're at to learn it. Kids can, they can go to a library and pull out a book about Clive of India or about the triangular trade. You know, the first thing I learned about the slave trade was after I was at school. And when I read it, I just thought, well, why didn't they teach me about this? I've been uninformed about this. Norman Beaton is the person who basically got up with me in 1975 when I was doing the Fosters and said, you really need to read this book about Martin Luther King, this book about the Haiti riots and war, to St. Louverture. You need to read about Malcolm X, you need to read about, you need to read. You need to go and see plays. And that's when I learned, when I really started to learn about who I was as a black person. But because schools are so diverse now, kids need that now.
Yeah.
They need to be learning about their status, their heritage, who they are. And I know it's difficult in terms of kids learning about their sexuality, but they need that too. And I know you guys do that. It's really, really important.
Do you think
to figure out how to stick up for yourself and to figure out how to own who you are?
Absolutely. Do you think today it's easier for this generation to find their voice because they've got access to social media and people that are like them? It's easier to access people. There's fantastic LGBTQ representatives, an amazing representatives of the black community. Is it easier today to find your own voice? You can find people like you.
I think, it really don't depend on people like me. I think you guys have the answer in the palms of your hands. It's all about where young people get their information from. And Hugh Grant was very funny the other day talking about kids with their tablets. And the worst possible thing was kids being in a classroom with their tablets. And it made me laugh when he said it. But I do think there's a medium we can find in terms of AI, in terms of digital education. Because the thing of crap in, crap out, I love that. If you put crap into a computer, you'll get crap out. It's learning how to figure out how to put crap in. And how to learn how to put crap in? By reading! By talking to your teacher and go, what is that thing about AI? What can I do and how can I make it better? And it keeps telling this kind of story. How do I make it to, it's all about reading and being well informed and then engaging with digital media and digital literature and stuff. It's a combination of things. I think also, it's important that kids have a sense of humour about things. Humour can be a sword and a shield. I've tried to talk about that today. And if kids learn how to take a joke, that's like 70% of that problem solved, right? It's all right to be funny. It's all right to acknowledge when something's funny. It's not all right to be cheeked every day by some smart aleck at the back of the room, but it is all right to recognise wit and to tell that child, you're pretty funny. I think that's all right. As long as it's in good taste and you use your mental edit button, I think.
Yeah.
As I said, Victoria Wood said, you know, whatever they say, just say something back. And so I think that thing of people going, you can't say that anymore, it's not necessarily true. You just got to have taste, that's all.
I love that mental edit button. Look, we haven't got much time left, and I can't let you go without asking you about Comic Relief. You know, an amazing charity that you established, which raised over £1 billion. What did it teach you about the power of people coming together?
I think people like you and the general public are extraordinary. Nobody says that to you. Trust me, you guys are great. Not just teachers, but general educators, general public. Extraordinary. We wouldn't be able to do Comic Relief without the public and without teachers. We used to do a thing called Teacher Relief. Does anybody remember that? You get a VHS cassette that came to your school, and then you do Comic Relief for a day or something. And I'd be in it, and I'd be going, we're going to Ethiopia now to talk to some people, you know, in a village about why they're there and what's happening. And used to teach that in school. And do you know, everybody that comes on Comic Relief, whether it's the Sugar Babes, or it's Take That, or it's Westlife, or it's Adele, or it's anybody, when they come on Comic Relief, they always say, oh yeah, I'll come on here because, yeah, we love Comic Relief. We used to do it at school. They made us do it at school. We had to watch a video for a whole day. And somehow, something that Adele, somehow something she watched at school that she was encouraged to make notes about and do an essay about, made her go, yeah, I like Comic Relief. And I think that's brilliant. And a lot of the older comedians, when Richard Curtis is my captain, but a lot of the older comedians said no to Comic Relief because they believed it was something that would nail their colours to the mask, and you know, it was politics. And to us, it wasn't politics. It was just having fellow feeling. You know, we had this thing of, well, if this was happening across the road from your house, you'd go over the road with blankets and water and food and 10 quid and you'd help. You know, these are your neighbours. This is a global neighbourhood. You know, one thing, people have learned one thing about us. Kids, going to my daughter's school on Red Nose Day when she was little and seeing teachers with teachers wearing red wigs and wearing their clothes on backwards and sitting in a pool of baked beans outside. Thanks, Len. Thanks a lot. This is on you. I'm going to be picking beans, means, hinds out of my arse crack. But thank you for doing that. And you know, I've got to say, one of my favourite things about Comic Relief is because of that. The Spice Girls loved Comic Relief, and Posh Spice went to Kenya with us. She came to Kenya. It was amazing. She was walking down the streets in her Jimmy Choos with a little mini skirt on. All these kids behind her. You must eat something.
Lenny, we've only got a few minutes left.
Oh, this is question time.
Yeah, I'd love to give the audience the opportunity to ask two quick
I've
questions.
done lots of jokes.
So, who has a question for Sir Lenny? I've got a lady here in a bluish dress, and there's a gentleman here in the middle in a cream top.
Run, person with microphone, run!
And what do you think, Sue's the lady with pearls? So if we start with this lady here.
If you were going to design a school where failure was celebrated and risk was celebrated, what was your...
Where are you? Could you stand up and could you say it louder, please, because I can't hear you.
If you were going to design a school where risk and failure were celebrated, what would your school motto be and what would you have on the wall?
What would the school motto be?
Yeah.
No boundaries. Jump.
Until the next one, is Dr. Teacher Mom saying bye-bye.